That presentable. Let me get to the back. I'm not that presentable. Let me get to the back. He look all educated.
Yeah, okay. All right, then. Come on in, baby.
See you, kid. We're real deep in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to begin? Okay, as you can see, this meeting is pretty heavily attended. We want to thank each and every one of the players who are here. They all represent the 30 NBA teams, so we got more than adequate representation. Derek and I and other members of the executive board are extremely thankful. We're here to announce that we've arrived at the conclusion that the collective bargaining process has completely broken down. And as a result, within the last hour, we served a notice of disclaimer on Commissioner Stern and the NBA. We plan to disseminate that to all 30 team owners so they'll know the action that we have taken today. The players feel that they're not prepared to accept any ultimatums. They thought it was extremely unfair on the part of the NBA ownership management to give them an ultimatum that they had to accept their proposal or confront a rollback to 47%. We have negotiated in good faith for over 2 years, and we've done everything anybody could reasonably expect of us, particularly when you look at the number of givebacks and concessions. But the players just felt that they had given enough, that the NBA was not willing or prepared to continue to negotiate. Things were not going to get better, and they were going to continue to reach and grab. I want to announce to you that what we've done, you know that we've had our counselor, Jeffrey Kessler, represent us through most of this process. But what we've done now is we've combined Mr. Kessler with Mr. David Boyes, who was lead counsel for the NFL in the litigation with the NFL and the NFLPA. So we think that we've got a stellar team, and we're prepared to file this antitrust action against the NBA because we think that that's probably the best situation where the players can achieve or get their due process. So as of this moment, we're going to be in the process of converting the National Basketball Players Association to a trade association, and we will be represented going forth. The players will all be represented in a class action by the able counsel that I've just identified. I'm going to turn it over to Derek.
Well, as Billy just stated, we, as a group of players, after 2 years of making a genuine and concerted effort to try and close a collective bargaining agreement with our teams and with the league, we've come to the conclusion today that that process has not worked for us. It has not put us in a position to get and negotiate the fair deal that we've been working to try and complete. And as a group, in unanimous fashion, every one of our player reps, in addition to several players that are either alternate reps or just came to make sure that we understood we had their support, unanimously decided this is the best decision for the players. And I want to reiterate that point that a lot of individual players have a lot of things personally at stake in terms of their careers and where they stand. And right now they feel it's important. We all feel it's important to all of our players, not just the ones in this room, but our entire group, that we not only try and get a deal done for today, but for the body of NBA players that will come into this league over the next decade and beyond. And so going forward, the collective bargaining process will not be the way that, as players, this process continues for us. And we will allow our legal team to really lead the charge and hopefully at some point assist us in getting a deal done that is fair to our entire body. And we want to still make it clear to our fans that this is not something that, although we chose this today, we have not chosen to be in this position. A lockout continues to be something that is imposed upon us by the league and by owners. This is not a strike. We've continued to want to go to work, want to get back to work, want to negotiate a fair deal, but that process is broken down. And we can't continue it today. And we will effectively going forward disclaim as a union and allow our representatives to lead the day. Thank you all for continuing to be here day in and day out. This has been important to our players. That's why they're here today. But this is where it stops for us as a union.
Chris?
Yeah, this Chris Broussard, ESPN, and this, I don't know if the lawyers address this, but how does a disclaimer differ from certification in terms of the courts and the time process?
Well, the time process is expedited. Once you disclaim, we disclaim this afternoon. The lawyers are in a position to either file a suit this afternoon, tomorrow. They will probably file the suit, I would assume, no later than within the next 2 days. That's how expedited things are. If you're going to desert, you would have to first hold an election. The NLRB would come in. That would take at least 45 days to accomplish that. So we've kind of closed that gap. I don't want to talk too much about the litigation, but the obviously intent would be to, unlike in the case of the NFL, we wouldn't be seeking an injunction, we'd be seeking a summary judgment against the NBA for the unlawful lockout and for the damages that have ensued as a consequence of the action that they've taken.
Do you know what it does in terms of possibility of still having a season this year?
Well, I think that that's an issue that's going to have to be resolved with our lawyers, because now when we talk about litigation, it's more like a settlement. So if a settlement is reached, you know, with the lawyers leading the charge, then anything is possible. I guess if the NBA wanted to, they could open up their doors and, independent of the union, let the players come back in and play. I don't know whether they'll do that.
What effect do you think the NBA's kind of preemptive lawsuit will have on the decision you guys made today?
Well, we don't think it's going to have much impact at all. We're convinced, having discussed this matter rather exhaustively with our counsel, that we're in pretty good shape. You know, obviously the NBA filed the suit in an attempt to forum shop, because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to anticipate that if this moment came, that they felt that they stood a better chance of prevailing if it was in New York as opposed to some other jurisdiction. But you know, we just have to live with that. The players have decided that under the circumstance, if they have to be in New York or wherever, that they're taking the appropriate action.
Did you make your intentions known to the league yet?
No, not at all. We did not. We just made them known within the last hour when we served the notice of disclaimer on Commissioner Stern's office, the NBA office.
Billy, do you have any idea which players will be plaintiffs in the suit?
No, not really. We've talked to some of the guys here, and you know, I'll leave that for your own speculation as to who might be. But we're going to obviously have a group of players.
We'll take like one more.
Yeah.
What were the key issues in the conversation today? Like, what were the issues that you couldn't agree to?
Well, the issues were those 6 issues that we'd identified before, where we were sent back by the body to see if we could negotiate some concessions on the system, and we were unable to deliver any of them. And in some instances, the proposal made by the NBA was regressive, in that it went backwards as opposed to becoming more open or liberal and flexible for the players. It was a system under which we felt that we couldn't function. For the most part, we had a hard cap, extreme tax, reduction in length of contracts, just the litany of things that you've been writing about for quite some time now.
Dan, let me real quick. We just wanted to make it clear for our players. You know, now that this matter is more of a legal matter than a collective bargaining matter, we understand that you all have jobs to do. You all continue to seek information, request interviews, requests from our guys, you know, to speak out on things. But this is extremely sensitive for our players. And, you know, we'd appreciate some respect for the fact that this is a legal matter. A lot of our players will be declining comment completely going forward. And if they do happen to speak to you and forward you to lawyers or to the Players Association offices, you know, we just appreciate you respecting that process and not putting our players in a position where they could end up legally hurting the players as a whole. So thank you very much for that respect.
All right, so the players congregated today in New York, and they have rejected the NBA's latest proposal. All 30 teams were represented by their team representatives at that meeting today with the Players Union's executive committee. And Billy Hunter said, quote, "The collective bargaining process has completely broken down." He said that the players are not ready to accept an ultimatum from the owners. And Billy said that they're going to file this antitrust action against the NBA. It is called a disclaimer of interest, at which point Billy said the players will get their due process. And Derek Fisher said it was a unanimous decision to disclaim as a union and leave it in the hands of their counsel. It'll be Jeffrey Kessler and also David Boyce. When asked, is there going to be a season this year, Billy Hunter gave an answer. I'm still trying to figure out if it was a yes or a no or a maybe. It is what it is at this point. And we now bring in SI.com's legal analyst, Michael McCann. Michael, there's been a whole lot of talk about the union perhaps decertifying. If you could explain the difference between this antitrust action, this disclaimer of interest, and decertification in layman's terms for the viewers at home.
Sure, Rick. So decertification is a more comprehensive process that requires a wait of 45 to 60 days. Disclaimer of interest, on the other hand, is a less formal process that enables the Players Association to essentially walk away from the players, and players could then file an antitrust lawsuit. So both mechanisms allow the filing of an antitrust lawsuit. Decertification is more comprehensive. The disclaimer of interest allows the immediate lawsuit. The downside for the Players Association, though, is that when the NBA argues that the players aren't bargaining in good faith and that they're disclaiming interest just to file an antitrust litigation, the players are going to be susceptible to that argument. So they do get to file the immediate lawsuit. The downside, though, is that it looks like they're trying to walk away from the union in order to file that lawsuit instead of bargaining faithfully.
Now, some people at home, and me included, say, what do you mean walk away from the union? Explain how that works. Explain how in the players' minds, this would be a good decision.
Well, the players are thinking we can walk away from the union can walk away from us. The benefit of disclaimer of interest is that it allows us to reverse that process relatively easily. With decertification, on the other hand, it requires a voting process. It requires approval by the National Labor Relations Board. So the players are thinking, in a sense, we can file an antitrust lawsuit, but also get back to the bargaining table really quickly if we want to. But as great as that sounds, the difficulty, though, is that the NBA is going to say to the National Labor Relations Board and also to a court that the union isn't bargaining in good faith, that what they're trying to do is use antitrust law to sue owners and to reach a settlement that way, that's not consistent with the goals of labor law.
Okay, Michael, fantastic explanation. Let me ask you this. You mentioned get back to the bargaining table. It is, and Billy said that the collective bargaining process has broken down. Is there a possibility in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks that, Billy and Derek and David and Adam and their executive committees get back face-to-face at the bargaining table, or will this basically be in the hands of attorneys from here on out?
So it will be in the hands of attorneys, but the attorneys can act as proxies for all of the people you just mentioned. Like in the NFL, the antitrust litigation was a device to get the parties together to keep talking. Even though they were in the midst of antitrust litigation, they were still able to talk through the litigation, and I suspect the same thing will happen now. This doesn't mean the season necessarily is over, but it's certainly a dramatic step, and it certainly makes the season less likely to happen.
I understand. So, in other words, this morning compared to right now, the 2011-12 NBA season became in much more jeopardy. Would you say that?
Absolutely.
That is not good news. Now, let me ask you this. They mentioned the name David Boyce. He was a part of the legal process with the NFL during their lockout, and obviously that was resolved. Jeff Kessler, a name we've heard a lot, involved with the Players Union as the attorney for them. What does David Boyce bring to this? And he's a new name to this process, so tell some people what you know about David Boyce.
Yeah, so David Boyce is probably one of the most celebrated litigators in the United States, certainly over the last 15 to 20 years. He was involved with Bush v. Gore back in 2000 on an election that, of course, we know resulted in President Bush rather than President Gore. He was also involved in representing the NFL and in the decertification lawsuit with the players. This is somebody who is a major league lawyer. This is a seasoned litigator who is used to high-profile cases and who will certainly bring a lot to the table. To get him representing the players is certainly a benefit to the players.
Michael, fantastic job, man. We really appreciate it. We'll be checking with you soon, maybe later today, maybe down the line.
You got it. Thanks.
All right, Michael McCann, we appreciate him, SI.com's legal analyst. We want to encourage you to stay tuned to NBA TV throughout the day. We're not done updating you, the basketball fan, on what's going on. NBA.com's David Aldridge and Steve Ashburner on that website, and also here with the updates. And we'll have player reaction as it comes in throughout the day right here on NBA TV. Thanks for watching.